Nice. All right, looks good. Sounds okay, hopefully. Hope you guys are doing all right. How has your week been? Curry is having a not so great week for reasons, but I hope that it all works out. And let me turn my other light on. Okay, sound is good. I actually didn't have this other light on, but yeah, now it's a lot brighter. All right, so we're gonna just kind of get down to business here. Basically, what we finished last time was we did a surprise unboxing on Tuesday of a figure that I had wanted for quite a while and ordered, but if you're interested in that, check out the VOD or YouTube later when I upload it. And we also started working on Mero-chan, and so we painted most of the beiges, or kind of like light whitish, yellowish clothing that she had, and we did a bunch of shading on that. That's really all we kind of got around to this time. Let me grab the pieces real quick, or at least some of them, so you guys can see. Let me put it over here. I know on Tuesday I talked about potentially doing some more shading work on these. I actually did that right before this stream, so we can kind of just like move forward. And so here is, let's see if I can show it off. Here's basically the color that we ended up on. You can see that it's kind of this nice pinky cream color. There's some yellows in it. You can really see the shadings, especially if I move over here. So you can see those shadings. And here's one where it might be a little more obvious. So you can see all the shading here, kind of along any of the creases and the folds. That's where we want to focus our shading. And we kind of wanted to get it in between those folds, and so not so much on the raised levels of the clothing, because as you can kind of see, even from like looking at my sweater here, there's areas where it just kind of indents in and it's that darker color, and then there's like the lighter color on top. So we didn't really want to, go all over it, just try to get inside those creases. And so did that to any number of pieces, and I'll just show the front off as well. And then after that, we'll start doing some transitioning. So here's just the front. You can see there's a little more shading on it. And the back has a little bit too, just because there's some areas where you can kind of see it. And so when it's together, it looks really nice. These are not sealed yet, and so we're actually going to do that right after this. So here's what they look like when they're together. And this is the benefit of magnets. You can really just like put things together and see if the colors and the shadings match up, because that's all you need to do is just, snap it together. So that's really helpful. So what we're gonna do tonight is the first thing we're gonna do is seal these, because I had just finished spraying them and they need to be sealed. There was a possibility of putting some yellow kind of on the top here, because I think, let me pull up the Mero-chan image. Let's see. So you can see here in this reference image, right, kind of along her neck, there's this yellow that's kind of there. We can add that later if needed, but basically I just wanted to get this sealed first. So just know that even if you seal, you can still add more onto it later. So that's what we're gonna do, is gloss these pieces over, and that'll help protect them a little bit too. I always get kind of nervous when I have unsealed paint on my desk. We will be using this mixture I already have pre-made. This is just a gloss. And we'll be spraying it through my Iwata HPC Plus. This is a 0.3 millimeter needle, and it's very useful for an all-purpose situation. So let me test this one out real quick. And yep, we're good. So we're gonna gloss all of these over first, and then we will return and start talking about her hair, because that's the next step after this. So let me grab my mask. Oh, it's actually on the other side of the room. So there we go. Okay, grab my mask, and I will be muting myself just, in between as my booth is going, because it's really loud. So, all right, let's just get this done real quick, and we'll come back and chat. pretty fairly straightforward. Basically, we just want to gloss over the pieces so we can protect the paint layer that has been cured. We can prevent it from scratching, so the protection. It's useful if we're painting pieces that need more than one color. So as I mentioned in the comment that I posted, when you gloss a piece, you're better able to mask over it, and so her sleeves will have those two colors that we need, the green and the kind of creamy color, and so now we'll be able to mask that cream off and then paint the green over the sleeves later. So just serves some numerous purpose. I'm going to clean this brush off, show you guys what it looks like briefly, and then we will start working on Mero's hair tonight. So her hair is a couple of pieces, so we'll have lots to do. And if we have time, we'll move into the skin tone. I'm not really sure how long the hair will take. It will also depend on how I'm happy with it, etc. So, okay, so let's see. Let me move this real quick, and I'll show off one or two of the pieces. So you can see here. Whoops. Let's see. Basically, it's just super glossy now. That's pretty much all I wanted to show you guys. I did want to make a note that when you're spraying this gloss, you do need to be a little bit careful of what's in your booth and what's surrounding your booth, because it's possible for little hairs to get stuck into the gloss, and that's always a pain to kind of get out. You have to buff it out really carefully, and so I say that because there's like one right here that I'll probably have to tackle later, but you gotta wait till that gloss dries a little bit, because otherwise if you mess with it, you risk digging into that like the gloss that isn't dry, and it just ruins the texture, and you potentially scratch the paint off. And so even if you see a hair, usually it's better just to wait, because you can very slowly sand it off with a high grit. Usually I start out with the super fine grit in the melamine sponge and then work my way down a little bit. So you can just use a sponge like this to kind of get off some of the stuff sometimes. And sometimes you need to go down in grits, and the higher the grit, basically the softer it will be on your kit, and so you can potentially get that hair off without scratching your paint layer off, but it just takes a little bit of finesse. Yeah, it can be a nightmare, especially if you have a workspace that has a lot of little hairs, and so for this type of kit, when it's just instructional for you guys, I'm not that concerned about it. I'll get off the big hairs, but if there's like a dot here and there, I'm not too concerned, because this is just my personal ones. But when it comes to commission kits, I want to make sure there's not a hair on that kit. So you gotta be really careful when you're spraying gloss and make sure things are safe in your workspace. So I won't do more looking at this later. You can see that it should dry pretty glossy. You don't want it to look matte or anything, because then your layer is not really, it's not gloss, and you risk, not having it that way. So what I have done in the past is, if there's evaporation issues, and so if you get it's hard to explain, it's like a milky white coating that looks on it, that looks like it's on your kit. That happens if you're spraying too quickly on your kit and it's evaporating too quickly, and so you get this moisture trapped within the gloss layer. What you can do is spray some thinner on top of that, and usually that'll kind of melt down that gloss a little bit, and you can get that level smoothed out, or that layer smoothed out, so it doesn't trap that water in there. I recommend a leveling thinner when you're doing that, and that'll give it enough time to evaporate and get all of that water out. But that really only happens with the high humidity conditions. I never had that issue dealing with low humidity, so that's just something that I noticed when I was working with gloss and top coats in high humidity. So just keep that in mind. When you spray your gloss on, obviously you want it to be glossy. Don't know what else to say besides that. So let me move these real quick. Sorry, I know my arm is right in front. I just want these to be in a safe spot, because I'm going to be moving the hair forward on my little alligator clip station here, and I don't want these pieces that are drying to get in the way. Okay, alright, so now we're going to transition into dealing with Mero-chan's hair. Before I do that, I'm going to blow all of these pieces with some just plain air because they've been sitting on my desk for a while and they have all these little hairs on them and I don't want that in my paint job. So just gonna spray these lightly with some air. Get all those little hairs off and dust. You know, I've been doing some sanding and random stuff, so. Okay. Also need to move some of these. Oh yeah, I also forgot to gloss these, so I'll do that later. Okay. Get all of that off. Alright, should be good. Alright, so we pre-made the mixtures for Mero-chan's hair. They were these two colors. So we have, this is the lighter tone here and this is the shading color. Even though they look somewhat similar, they will come out pretty differently on the kit because this was the spoon that we decided on. So you can see that middle color is the base and then this outer color is the shading color. And we may add some more shadings and clears here and there. What I'm also thinking of doing before going in and spraying this is giving, basically putting a light yellow coat on all of the pieces to serve as the base coat, and that'll bring out a little more of the yellow tones in this figure because even though this is like a nice yellow green, I still think it could be a tiny bit more yellow. And so what I think I'm gonna do is spray some Radome first on these. This is Mr. Color 318. It serves as a really nice initial hair color. It's pretty yellow. I know it looks creamy, but it honestly comes out pretty yellow out of the bottle. And so I'm gonna do that on a spoon first and then do Mero-chan's hair mixture on that spoon just to make sure it's what I want. And then if that's good, we'll just start moving on to the hair. So I actually don't have a spoon on hand. I need to grab one real quick. So let's do that. I'll grab a few actually. We'll have a minor spoon sanding session because if you've watched my streams before, you'll know that I purchased bulk spoons from Amazon. And I have like 1,000 spoons, but they did not come in good quality and they all have this kind of glossy film on them. And so none of the paint sticks on any of these spoons that I purchased. So what I do is I sit down for 5 minutes and I sand my spoons to make sure that they are gonna stick to the spoon. The paint will stick. So just a slight minor inconvenience, but again, it only takes like a couple seconds per spoon, so not too big a deal. Alright, so now that our spoons are sanded, I am going to grab a little cup and let's put some Radome in it. Move these. I didn't really have any time to prep for this beforehand. I'm on a very tight schedule these days. I have to manage my time very carefully with all of the obligations that I have put myself under. So what we see here is what's happening. Alright, I'm also pretty low on the Radome. I've used this quite a bit in the past year or so. And so you can see it comes out pretty yellow. It's like a very dark flesh tone with a lot of yellow in it. So it would work great for, you know, blonde hair, although it's very, very yellow. So if you're looking for a cool blonde, you'll probably have to add some purple in there to kind of even that out. All right. I'm not going to turn the booth on for this. I'm just going to paint 2 spoons and see what happens. All right, so let's just get this Radome on real quick. You can see it goes on really yellow. It's got some like lightness to it, so they definitely have a little bit of white in it, but for the most part it ends up quite yellow. This might be a little too dark from what I want actually. I was thinking this would be a little bit brighter. Yeah, I'll paint 2 of them. hair on that spoon. Okay, okay, let's turn this off just for a sec. So let me put these aside. So I'm gonna quickly rinse this out, and then we're gonna spray the hair color we mixed right onto it. Pretty thin layer, just because this is already pre-mixed. I don't want to be wasting it. I do always mix more than I need, but you never know. Sometimes you spill things, and the more you have, the more you can stick with. So, all right. Yeah, this is a very yellow creamy. Definitely wouldn't really work for like saber hair or anything like that. Right now you would need to mix that in a little bit and change it with some white. It can go pretty light though, if you add a bunch of white to it. All right, let me add this Mero-chan here. Oh, you know, I don't know if I want that. It's a little too dark. Yeah, I was really hoping this would be a lot brighter. It kind of turns it like puke green. So I don't think that's really what I'm looking for. I think maybe we'll just go straight on to it. Let me actually just spray this real quick and see if it's still good. Yeah, I think we'll just stick with spraying this color directly on the resin, which was the original plan. I just like double checking. Okay, so let's clean this out. What we can always do is go in with a fluo yellow, or make sure our spray is focused on certain areas. Okay, I need to grab, excuse me, some Q-tips. Okay, we'll ignore the radome plan. That totally wasn't me just trying to spray radome. Yeah, that's fine. I think this color was a little darker than I thought because I added quite a bit of shading on it, so. All right, wow. Yeah, no thank you. Okay, well with that, throw those spoons away. Forget that. Don't need this either. Although actually, this wasn't mixed with anything, so I'm just gonna dump this right back in here because I'm running pretty low. All right. So let's just get spraying, I suppose. We're gonna be spraying a total of 4 pieces. It's Mero-chan's front hair, her back hair, and the 2 little bow ponytail thingies she has. So all of these will be sprayed with the base color, and then we will reconvene and discuss the next steps, which are the shading, which we also have. So let me find my mask. Yep, there we go. Gonna put that on, and the same situation. that's the first color we've laid down. Thank you for your kind comment, Rebel Star. I was looking over at the stream every now and then to make sure I'm in like the right zone. I mean, I was noticing how yellow that was coming out on my laptop. This figure is it looks much greener in person. Definitely closer to like a bright lime. And so just kind of letting you know that we're still on track here. Hey, how are you doing? Am I saying Secrease correctly? Thank you very much. This is basically just following the original sculptor's color design. We really like how she painted this kit, and it's been a while since I've had the opportunity to paint bright yellow greens, so figured might as well stay with the color palette this time. Usually I want to change things up, but this has been fun so far. Also, I have my window open and someone is like cooking barbecue or something, and it's pretty late right now, and it smells so good. I'm like, oh man, this smells so good. Yeah, definitely when I post the finished pictures of this figure, they will be color corrected and everything will be exactly, or at least as close as how I can see it, because I definitely do that in all of my photos. Man, that barbecue smells good. Hi, Monkey. Get a chance to check out some of the video. Yeah, I watched a little bit. You sent it to me right when I was about to start class, and so I like watched a couple minutes, and then I had to dip out. But I've seen the coverage of Wonder Festival that happened this past weekend, and man, it was pretty sad. A lot of people dipped out, as you guys may or may not have known, just because of the current Omicron threat in Japan, and so Wonder Festival in person was scheduled, but many people backed out. However, just like tonight, not even an hour ago, the rest of it's happening. So a lot of the manufacturers pulled out, but Good Smile Company just updated their wonderful hobby life, setup, and so there's a lot of new stuff coming out. Twitter is kind of blowing up because Max Factory and all the other PVC manufacturers are posting their stuff that they were supposed to show off at Wonder Festival, and so if you're interested in that, I would give Twitter a look, or any other site where you get your figure news, because that's happening, and I'll be checking that. Oops, that was close. Right after this, I only had like 10 minutes, and I was like, oh my god, and I looked at a couple of it, and then had to dip. So definitely good stuff, always fun, and also. Now that we're past Wonder Festival, a lot of sculptors are starting to put their stuff on booth this week. Oh, 1 second. This actually just popped out, so let me fix this real quick. So yeah, a lot of sculptors are putting their stuff on booth because they weren't at Wonder Festival, and if they're selling an OC kit or something from Ozerlane, etc., those are allowed to be sold, and so. Just if there's something you want, keep an eye out, because chances are it's going up this week if it hasn't already. So yeah, I am definitely trying to avoid, for the most part, booth, because I've been looking and seeing and wanting and am not going to be getting for the most part. There's like one or two that I really, really want, and so I'm keeping an eye on. Did any of you guys manage to get Whoopie Pie's birds? I think actually Mero-chan was still up as of this morning, and so there were quite a few Mero-chans, as well as the other girl, Su-chan. The rest of the birds sold out pretty quickly from what I heard from friends, so I'll have to check. Actually, maybe I'll just check now. Rebel Star, did you see that Nurse Munchkin put up? Yeah, oh my gosh, Munchkin kits are always so on point. And I really love how he's transitioned into sculpting like thick girls. Like literally, they're pretty thick and luxurious. Not like quite as much of a fan of the nurse kit, just because nurses aren't my thing. I'm not really into them. But for people who like nurses, they're like really beautiful. It's a nice kit. Let me actually find Whoopie Pie, and then I'll link the nurse kit too if I can just get it real quick. Let's see. Still talking. That is not what I wanted. Let's see. I don't know why I'm not just going on my own website and checking, because that's the surefire way to do it. Oh yeah, so Suchan is actually up right now, and so if you're interested in buying the kit that I'm actually working on right now, it's available on Booth. You can support the sculptor directly, and she is 6,400 yen, so it's about 60, if we're doing 100 yen, she's about 64 US dollars, and really good deal. As you can see, you get a whole figure. They're all really cute, and yeah, PSA for buying from Whoopie. Let's see, what does the sculptor show? I'm not sure quite what you mean by that, C-crease or set crease. Basically, what we're building and buying are unpainted resin kits, and so the one I just linked is the way to actually buy this kit that we're working on. And I might as well just link my guides as well, because why not? Here is a guide to how to buy these types of kits for anyone lurking or just wondering. Basically, if you go on my website, plumworkshop.com, and then go into the top there's a top bar that says guides. If you click on that, there's a bunch of guides, because I write a bunch for everyone, and the proxy and forwarding guide is what you want. And so you can use either to buy from Booth. I generally prefer using a forwarder because it's a little faster. Basically, you just check out on your own. You don't have to wait for someone to check the item. But if you choose to use a proxy, you can do so as well. They also have a built-in proxy on that site. I think it's through Baiyi, which is Tenso. Here is the nurse kit that Munchkin is selling. Pre-orders are going up really soon, so if you're interested in this type of model, it is still safe for work, then that's your bet. I would check out their Twitter, because they tell you the exact times that they put it up, and they sell out very quickly. So, man, yeah, that nurse is very thick. I really like the City of Cats one, though, more, like you said, Rebel Star. That one's definitely my favorite so far out of all of them. And I'm really glad I was able to get that one. They have this habit of like keeping the sculpts going and not really releasing the old ones, so you gotta get what you get, at least in terms of Munchkin's case. The Suchan has been sold a couple times, so thankfully, there's plenty of opportunity to buy that one, and that's kind of why I'm also building this one, is to show you guys what it could look like and some of the colors I'm using, etc. So, anyway, now that we've let these pieces sit for a little while, basically just going to show them off real quick. So I only put on a really pretty light layer of the yellow, or the yellow-green that we have going on here. You can almost see some of the white through it still, but what I purposely did, and I'm not sure if you may or may not have been able to catch this, but I focused on like the highlight areas first, and so I did kind of some pre-shading with the same color, and then went over it a little bit lighter in areas where I thought it might be highlighted. And so if you're kind of pressed for time, that's an easy way to do some shading. You can just like spray the areas you want darker more intensely than other areas, and then you end up with a really kind of nice mild gradient without even needing to switch colors. So did that for all of these pieces. Here's the back. In the case of, it's really subtle, I'm not sure if you can even tell, but in the case of the back, it's shaded kind of here and under here, and there's this lighter color going across the middle, and then kind of in some spots here it's shaded as well as down here. And so we're gonna do some more shading next, but I just figured I'd walk through some of what I did. Let's see, crease. Thank you, I can finally get something. Yeah, definitely recommend these kits, or at least Whoopie Pie's kits. They're very great beginner kits. A lot of people I know own her kits and are very happy with them. Again, they're really great beginner models. Mine, not so much, but it's because I purchased directly from her in person. And so if you're ordering from Booth, usually it'll go through like a more professional workshop, and so you'll get a really nice cast, and it should be really easy for the most part to sand down and put together. So definitely recommend. Let's see, looking at some of the other models on Booth Link, I saw some of those in Wonder Festival video. Yeah, so they're pretty much like what you see is what you can buy online, and that's something that's so cool about this the way that these festivals have gone, a lot of sculptors are realizing that there's an international audience, and if they sculpt from properties that have more open licensing or their own original characters, they can get more sales in, because Wonder Festival is super restrictive in terms of their licensing. I won't dive too much into it because that's an entirely separate topic, but basically, in order for a sculptor to sell a figure at Wonder Festival, they have to get a temporary license from, you know, the manufacturer, the company that owns that character, and it's only good for the day of the festival. And so, for example, if you want to sell a figure of Saber from Fate Grand Order and Fate series, you need to apply through Wonder Festival, get approved in order to sell that figure, and you can only sell it on that specific day. You cannot sell it on booth, you cannot sell it through your own website, you can't sell multiple copies through auction, etc. It's only that day you're legally allowed to sell it. And so that's kind of why these figures are so difficult and expensive to get, is because of the licensing issue. And so what's great about booth and, you know, these other ways to mail order is that many people can get into garage kits if they're, you know, wanting to paint original characters or Ozzer Lane or, you know, anything else. And so the licensing is a little more open with those. You basically get a really quick turnaround time. And so, like Monkey mentioned, there's people who went to Wonder Festival, took photos of these figures, and then like this week they're going on booth and you can sell them, and people can buy them. And so it's just a really interesting way that the festivals have gone. It's a really cool way to engage with sculptors and support their work. It's a lot more open than it has been in the past, and so I really highly recommend buying directly from booth or from sculptors, because it's how you show your support. That's kind of why I'm ranting about this. So hopefully that helps a little bit if you're just interested in models in general and kind of the way that this has gone. TFO, Treasure Festival Online, is another separate deal that I won't rant about now, but in short, that one allows sculptors to sell licensed characters online for the day of the Treasure Festa. And so that one's a cool opportunity to attend an online festival and buy some figures that are licensed, like the ones from Fate Grand Order and other properties. So anyway, let me refill my lacquer cleaner, and then what we're going to do now is start the shading process. We have Mero-chan shade color that's pre-mixed. I think what I'm going to do this time, and what we kind of experimented with before, is thinning my thin mixture with clear to make it last a little bit longer, and just see how that sprays, because right now it's still a pretty bright color. It goes on pretty intensely, and I really want to be working with thinner layers, and so the clear is a little bit of an easier way to do it. Oh, good. I'm glad that my minor rant was worth it then. I figure it's always good to repeat info, because, you know, we get people rolling in here from all over, and it's, you know, a topic that comes up a lot. And so if you ever have any questions about how this sort of thing goes, feel free to ask a question, because I've been in this field for a long time and regularly engage and support sculptors. So, and I mean a long time, probably too long. Alright, so I added a bunch of clear to this. I'm gonna test this on a spoon, probably this one, the one that we measured, or we tested on before. And let me just use this same one. This color that I mixed is not too different than the original one, but it is quite a bit darker, you can see. And so we want to be sure we're not spraying that on too thickly. Sorry, I got something in my eye. There you go. We don't want to spray it on too thickly, or else we're not going to be able to get that color back. It's going to look really dark. And so my whole thing is using thin layers, and so usually I just shade with clears, but this is a new thing I'm wanting to try. So bear with me. Hopefully it all goes well. If not, embarrassing moment, but that's what we're all about here, is just practicing and things happen. So let me spray the spoon first and see how this color goes on. And then if it goes well, we'll move on to the figure. yeah, that sprays pretty well. It's really thin. Like, I know that I said that before, but that is really thin. So basically what we're doing is we've thinned out the paint quite a bit, and so we can very slowly add our gradation layer. It might not even be visible. It's like only slightly visible. We're gonna have to kind of play around with it, but that's good. I like building up really thin layers rather than going in with the hard shading and then having to like correct. So I think this is good to start out with. What I'm actually gonna do, and I'm glad I just thought of it, is I'm gonna switch my airbrush out because I usually do most of my shading with the 0.2 millimeter needle airbrush, and this is my mostly base coat airbrush and the all over airbrush. So like last time, we're gonna switch to my Badger Sotar 2020 because that allows me to get those finer lines. That's what we did all of the shading with her kind of creamy colors. Alright, so we got the Sotar. It had the like protective thingy on it. I have to keep this on here because otherwise you risk bending the needle. Okay. There we go. That looks good. And I think that's it. I think the only other thing that I wanted to do was look at this color of the hair next to the cream right now and make sure we're on the right track. It's a little bit jarring, to be determined, I think. I might have to add some more yellows to this because right now we've got this like creamy, slightly reddish tone, and then this yellow is a little bit too different, but we'll mess around with it. I'm gonna admit it right now, I'm not a huge fan of green anime hair. I don't know if I've ever really painted anime hair this green or this bright. The closest I probably have is my little Christmas kitty, but that was definitely more of like a cool blonde with some minty green. This is like lime green, and so it could just be me like not liking the color of it, which is fine, but we'll see how it goes. So what to do? Oh yeah, so let's get this going. Don't need too much into my tiny cup. You can see it has a much smaller amount of paint that it can hold, and that's purposeful. It's because it's a very small airbrush. It's meant for this fine detail work, so we don't have that big cup. Makes me think of fresh spring leaves. That's a very positive way to think about it. I clearly just need an attitude change, because when I think about that, that makes me excited that spring is coming, and honestly, by the time we finish this, it will probably be spring. So I think that's great. All right, so we're gonna start the shading for this. I'm gonna let you guys know right now, it will probably not look like I'm doing very much because these are going to be going on in really thin layers, but eventually it'll build up and we'll add some different colors. Remember, this was like mostly with a thick layer on it, and so we're gonna get somewhere in this range. Maybe not quite this dark. We'll see how it goes. All right, so I'm gonna put my mask on and mute myself, but feel free to ask questions because I'll either answer them in chat, or when I'm done spraying, I can come back to them. really briefly, I know this is still on, what I decided I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly go over all of these and get those really light shadings down. And then I think I'm just going to go in straight with this shading and see how that goes, at least kind of on some of the backs of these pieces. I'm finding that the shadings are definitely showing up, but they might get kind of blended once I go all over this again. I'm not sure if you guys can tell the difference. You can kind of see this kind of gradation happening. There's this darker green that's down here. But we want to enhance that further, obviously, and these colors are still a little too light because I did go over this really lightly. So that's kind of where we're at. We're going to continue what we're doing, and then after that I'm going to transition into the, it's not a lighter color, like it's still the original color, but it's more pigmented. So right now we're dealing with the less pigmented version. So yeah, okay, good. I'm glad someone can see the shading. Yeah, there we go. Kind of visible under here. Starting to look more like Mero-chan, I think. Alright, I'm going to get back at it. still hear me? I'm cutting this off for 1 second because my camera, like, it looks like it disconnected. Maybe that's just me. Oh, nope, it definitely just cut off. All right. It is, there we go. Okay, I don't know what just happened. My DSLR just like shut off and then it turned itself back on. And I like turned around and there was no movement. And so I think we're good. Just checking to make sure I didn't disconnect. Thanks guys for the feedback. We're still working on that back hair piece, but that's the last one that needs this light shading. So after that, we'll stop and chat again. So I'm gonna turn this back on. Oh yeah, so far I'm actually really liking this approach, the thinning, you know, this paint that I already mixed with further clear to kind of dilute it. It's working really well and we're not getting any of that splattering that's pretty common when you just like spray a paint. Sometimes, I don't know if you guys airbrush, I know, you know, some of you do, but when you're spraying like an opaque paint, you get kind of like droplets and stuff and then you gotta cover the piece. I'm not getting any of that with this clear mixture, and so honestly I should have been doing this earlier. This is a technique that's been around for a while, and whoops, a lot of Japanese modelers use it, but I haven't tried it till now, so far I highly recommend it. Anyway, let's keep going. realize you can't hear me. All right, pretty much all done with that part of the shading. There's a few like small scuffs or something that are on this, and so what I plan to do now is I'm gonna try to sand those off really gently, and then what we're gonna do is go all over the figure with the base color again, because I put that on really thin the first time, and there's a couple areas that I want to kind of blend in a little bit before we go in with some darker shading. So really this, like the whole process, at least how I build these, is it's very gradual. You're building up really thin layers, you go over it a couple times, you add in colors, etc. So it's not uncommon for me to like, you know, coat it and go over the base and then do some other stuff, etc. I don't know if I can scratch this off without screwing myself over, but it's right in the middle of the hair, so I'm gonna try. It's not coming off, so, oh, there we go. But it did take off a little bit of paint with it. So, where's my melamine? Thankfully this wasn't in a shading area, so I'm gonna kind of coat that a little bit more. You can see there's a little white spot right there. That's fine, we can deal with that. The good thing about working with opaque paints too is you can like completely cover the piece and it'll still be the same color. That's not the case with clears. So like if we had been painting the skin tone and we did that and we had a little white dot on that skin, that's it. Like you gotta start over, because if you continue to apply that clear skin, the rest of the surrounding area is gonna be darker than that one white spot, like forever. And so that's one of the challenges of using all clears, is trying to get a consistently even spray, and opaques are a little bit easier in that regard. So what we're gonna do now is go over some of these pieces again with the Mero-chan just base color, because we went on it really light and I need to blend in. But first let me clear this. We're actually gonna switch back to my other airbrush again. I kind of switch between airbrushes a lot as well when I'm painting, so unfortunately I don't have one of those super cool setups like I saw on Twitter, and there's this guy that had 5 airbrushes lined up on his workbench and he would just switch between them for the colors and the thing he needed to do. I don't know how he had 5 hooked up. I don't know if there were multiple like compressors or something that he was using, or I don't know if it was a woman or a man or anything. Anyone, my apologies. But it was super cool. So I wish I had like 5 airbrushes lined up. That's a real pro setup. Okay, so we're just cleaning this out real quick, because we will be back with this airbrush, yeah, probably tonight. So in between colors, I always give things a good spray and cleaning. All right, so we're gonna switch this out. Switch your compressor off and protect that needle, and we're good to go. Whoops, this is not the right one. I have my master airbrush over here as well, which I don't know if we'll be using that one on this kit. I don't have any plans really to use metallics on Mero-chan or pearls. Oh wait, oh my gosh. It wanted to be near me. I picked up the master one anyway. Alright. But yeah, I don't think we're planning to use any pearls or greens or anything on this kit. Although I do have some new Mr. Crystal colors, and so maybe I'll use it on this hair. I don't know what I would use though. I have like a green and I also have a teal, but she doesn't really fit either of those. So anyway, let's just keep going. Hopefully we can finish the hair tonight. I am not that optimistic. I think we're getting most of it done, but I don't know if we'll get the finishing touches done. So we'll just have to kind of see how we go towards the end of the night. Thankfully, we've been doing a lot of shading, and so from now on, it's just slowly building that color. We've got the main base that we want, and you can see, you know, a lot of the shading already. So any of that darker color, that is a combination of both shadow and shading. So it's not just the kit, you know, reflecting light. There is an active effort here to shade, you know, these areas and make them darker. You can really see it here. they cast darker shadows. Alright, so let's turn that on. I just dumped paint in here, I don't know. Yeah, it's good to go. So let's just give Mero-chan another light coating of this base hair color. Alright, so gave that a nice coating of the green yellow. It's now a lot more intense in terms of the final color. I also realized I knocked over my lacquer somewhere along the way. Luckily I have so many paper towels here. It just soaks everything up, but we'll have to refill. I have many barriers to that. just for that reason. So sometimes when I'm moving, I shift and the towel knocks things over, etc. I'll show the piece in just a little bit. And see how it looks. Alright. Also, let me finish spraying this out. There we go. And throw away some of these. It is very like bright yellow green in real life. So there's definitely not any like neon happening, but it is a very yellow green. The thing that comes to mind is like yellow cabbage. It's pretty bright and very yellow toned. Alright, almost done. There we go. Yeah, it's pretty bright, but it's not like jarring. I think the saturation is boosted it's boosted a little bit so you guys can see it easier in the stream. It's a lot more mellow in real life. So here's just an example. You can see the colors are getting there. There's still a little bit of shading we have to do. I unfortunately had to go in a little harder with the green color to fix that spot. And for the most part it's okay, but it needs a little bit more blending. But you can definitely see it. Here the shadings are a little more evident, I think. You can see over here. So the shadings are in this area, you know, along the back, along the sides here. I did a little bit too much here, but that's fine because the bow is going to cover it, etc. So now we're going to do just a little bit more shading tonight with, I think, the original color to kind of deepen the shade just a little bit and see how that looks. And then after that, you know, we might be done. I might want to add a little bit more yellow. I don't know yet. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, she is coming together. When I put her next to that cream so far, I'm still not sold on it. I think it's a little too red. So I think what I'll have to do is apply some sort of color tint change on it. Maybe spray a little bit of you know, a clear yellow on it. Maybe that CR3 might change it a little bit. That's pretty good at doing that. So just, you know, even if you're not happy with the color, there's easily ways to kind of change it because we are using an airbrush and we're applying these layers really thin. So that's the beauty of it. You can blend colors on top of the kit, almost like you're, you know, I mean, you're just applying different layers to change the color. Whereas if you're hand painting, that's a lot harder to do. You basically are like just mixing the color, putting it on, and then if you want to change the color, it's harder to get a really thin layer to go on top of it. Usually you just have to paint over it. Or at least that's typically what I did when I hand painted. And so airbrushing is great for that. Another example I can think of before I start randing completely is if you want to just straight up airbrush orange, you know, what you can do is apply like a base coat of yellow and then a really thin coat of red, and that just changes it directly to orange. And so there are some very talented people out there who are basically able to spray and change colors directly on the kit. They don't have to pre-mix the paint and get it on, etc. That's a whole other level of skill and color theory knowledge that even I don't possess. You know, I can only do it up to a certain extent. And so there's so many things you can do with this tool if you know how to do it. But that's kind of the same with anything, right? Just have to learn how to use your tool. All right. So I think what we'll wrap up with tonight is just a little bit more of the hair shading and kind of see how that goes, and then make plans for next week. Which my week will be a little bit easier, I think. This week was a little bit tough to fit this in because I had a presentation today and I started work this week, and so it's been a little nuts, but I'm glad that I'm able to set aside time for this. This is something I really enjoy doing. So, all right, turn this back on. Let's check this again. Always like to just check to make sure things flow through. Sometimes after you clean it, for whatever reason it gets gunked or you can't spray out of it. So as habit, I put a little thinner in and change it. Okay, and would be bad not to apply the shading. So this should be a lot darker than what we've been dealing with that clear mixed color, which did work really well. I really enjoyed that. I think I'll be using that method in the future, because usually I shade with clears, and I try to avoid mixing a lot of opaque color because they just come out way too dark, but that was a good alternative. So, all right, let's get going. Last bit for tonight. Alright, I am back. I have seen your comments. I was laughing because I am also wanting pork buns now, especially after that meat smell. And thank you, Rebel Star. I think I'm pretty happy with this so far. What I'm going to do is clean up my airbrush, and then I'm hoping I can just put this directly onto Mero's face and see kind of how the shading is looking right now. So far, I'm pretty pleased with it. There may be 1 or 2 more steps that I'll introduce into this, which I may or may not show on camera depending on how my weekend goes, because I am also going to be eating bottomless brunch this weekend. That has nothing to do with figure painting. But basically what I'm saying is I may apply like a clear green. I had one over here, and then I had it on here on Tuesday, and then I put it away. So dang. But anyway, there might be stuff I will do to this over the weekend if I have some time. I'm also trying to finish my commission, so I might just work on that. And let's see, sorry, I just saw your comment. How do you get such vibrant colors? I always do a white base coat, but can't seem to get that pop of standout color. I painted a figure of Noelle. Ooh, Noelle, very cute. Definitely could rant about Genshin in here. And the magenta light color was so hard to achieve. That I completely understand. It can be really hard to get super saturated colors, especially if you're mixing them yourself. What I tend to do when I want a really bright color these days is I introduce a fluorescent color, or I just buy the color from like a color that's similar to the one I want to achieve, and then I tint it a little bit. And so in the case of Noelle, what I would probably do, and I'm trying to think of what her outfit looks like off the top of my head, because Noelle is not my waifu. Let's see. Okay, maybe Googling just Noelle isn't the best thing to do. Let me see. Oh, I remember now. Okay, yeah, so it's those parts on her outfit. What I probably would have done in that case is start out with like a really hotter, like reddish pink, and then introduce the magenta on top of that. I think I have it over here. Let's see. Oh dang, it may be the one color that I don't have on my bench. I have it in a secret stash, but that doesn't make sense. I should have it. Give me one moment. I have to look in my paints. Yeah, I can't find it right now. I think I'm hiding it. But if you want some really nice color pops in your paint, what I highly recommend is purchasing these if you use lacquer. This is a Mr. Color line that's CMYK. Basically, it's just the cyan, magenta, and yellow line. And these will alter color and make it much more vibrant. And they really help in very slightly adjusting things. And so what I would have done probably is use the magenta from this line and then try to figure out from there if I need to apply a coat on top of that. There's also some Gaia notes that have some magentas if you prefer Gaia notes. I don't know if Mr. Color has a magenta in it, but those are really helpful in adjusting colors. But yeah, it's really hard I get what you're saying, and it's really hard to mix these vibrant colors if you're having to mix all your colors from scratch. And I've actually had that problem because I use a lot of white, and like mixing yellow and red together is gonna get you an orange, but sometimes just buying a bottle orange, it has these stronger pigments and it comes out stronger. And so really it's like a matter of figuring out what your limits are, and if you need to buy another paint. I know that's not easily accessible, and I don't want to say like, oh, go buy more paint, but sometimes there's just colors I can't get that vibrant without purchasing a new one. And who is your waifu? I'm more of a husbando person, so I like collect all the Genshin husbands. I'm very excited for Ayato, although I don't know if he will be my true husbando. In terms of waifu, I really love Hu Tao. She is like so spicy and funny, and I can't play her to save my life. Like her playstyle just it doesn't jive with me, but I have her in Genshin. I love her attitude. I loved her story. Also, Raiden Shogun. I really like her a lot, mainly because she's super strong and she's like cracked on my team, and I think there's an interesting juxtaposition between like her actual self and then her Shogun self, which this won't really make sense to anybody who like doesn't play the game. And then I really like Mona a lot. I totally relate to her, and I think she's really funny. There's a lot of really good waifus in Genshin. I love Klee. I have the Klee figure that came out. I'm not as big of a fan of the mommy characters. That's not really my thing, so I tend to really like not like them that much. But Yae Miko is also really great, and I'm excited to see how she does in this new update, because it's interesting from what I've seen in the terms of how she'll play. So, minor Genshin rant. I'm always happy to talk about Genshin. It's literally, I don't have time for much these days. Genshin is like the only game that I consistently play for 30 minutes, an hour, and that's my game time. So that's all I allow myself is like 30 minutes of Genshin time. So sad days. Wish I could game more. Anyway, before we wrap up, what I'm gonna do really quick, if possible, I don't want to scratch this paint because it's dry, but it's a little fragile. There we go. So because we use magnets, we can just pop it on there. There we go. So we don't have any skin tone on here yet, but this is kind of where we're at. Once you have skin tone, it will be a little more helpful. And looking at this current color scheme, really, it seems like we're going to have to go with a more yellow skin tone. This color on the kit is a little bit more yellow-green than I thought. I know that doesn't make sense. This is like literally the same as the spoon, but things look very different on a spoon versus on your figure too, because you have these natural shadows that are cast. And so I think the shadings are really good so far. Let's just take a quick look. Yeah, so I think the shadings are pretty solid. There's a little bit more that could happen, but so far I'm pretty happy. Yeah, I might introduce a slightly darker green. We'll see what happens. Let's see, I haven't met Shogun yet. Yeah, I really don't have much time, so you totally get me, right? At Genshin, you can pretty much do everything in like an hour, so it's fine. Thanks, guys. That really means a lot. Let me zoom in a little bit. Watch me completely drop this. So yeah, she's coming together. She's still pretty bright. I don't know how it compares to the actual image. Let's make this a little bigger. It's a little bit more green compared to that image, but you know, when I look at it in person, it's pretty yellow. So we'll see how it goes. You know, that's the thing. We can blend and adjust and go from there. But thank you so much, guys. I think we're gonna wrap it up now because I still got some reading to do for school. But I really appreciated talking to you guys, and I hope that you can visit me again next Tuesday. I don't know what time that is. I don't think that that's Valentine's Day, right? I think Valentine's Day on Monday. Yeah, the 15th. So I'll be around on the 15th. Feel free to drop in. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, I hope you all have a good weekend as well. Very nice. Hope it gets warmer. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.